For years, the Rokinon 14mm lens has been absolutely hailed by budget photographers as the king of astrophotography. For around $300, you're getting a full-frame, wide-angle lens, full metal construction, 2.8 aperture, built-in lens hood. Did I already say it was $300? I've taken it backpacking through Washington, mountaineering through Oregon. It's gone with me to Arches National Park, as well as Bryce Canyon in Utah. It's safe to say I've put this lens through its paces, but there are a few things you need to be aware of before you buy it for yourself. Hey, what's up everyone? My name's Winiarski, and I'm a photographer and filmmaker here on YouTube as well as Instagram, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Rokinon 14mm and a couple of things you need to know before you go out and purchase this lens. But before we get into that, I want to tell you about something really quick called Josh's Gear Garage. So like I've already said, people ask me questions all the time about what kind of gear they should buy, whether that's cameras, lenses, microphones, lights, and while I normally get to everyone's DMs, it's normally not as quickly as people normally like. That's where Josh's Gear Garage comes in. This new page over on Amazon has all the products that I'm already recommending to people in one simple, intuitive, easy to navigate web page. Looking for a fast aperture lens? Check out Bokeh Ballin' on a budget. Want good audio quality at an affordable price? Check out entry-level microphones. Or if you just want a list of all the gear I use to take photos to make videos, check out Josh's Camera Bag 2020, which has a list of all the gear I use to make this kind of content. No more clicking through endless links to the description, no more navigating back and forth between pages. Josh's Gear Garage has everything I use, a lot of products I recommend, everything with my seal of approval in one easy page. Full disclosure, if you make a purchase through this page, I do receive a little bit of a kickback, but this is just a list of gear. It's the stuff I'm already recommending. So help me, help you, if you're gonna buy gear, or if you're just interested in the gear I recommend, check out the webpage. It's got everything you need. I already picked the best prices. So if my videos have helped you out, consider making a purchase through there, and then we're just helping each other out. Anyways, back to the lens. So before I make you too, worried or nervous about buying this lens, there are a lot of really good things about it. It's got a full metal construction, an incredibly smooth focus ring, it's got that built-in lens hood, f2.8 aperture, it's affordable, and it's a pretty sharp lens overall. I mean, it really is a beautiful, professional feeling camera lens. But here are the quirks. So the first thing has to do with Rokinon as a company, or Samyang depending on where you're from. Now, Rokinon is a third-party lens manufacturer who I'd say focuses primarily on third-party cinema lenses for really any type of camera. They make them for Canon, they make them for Sony, they make them for Nikon. I'm pretty sure they make them for Fuji as well. And that's one thing that's really cool about third-party lens manufacturers is I can talk about it for one camera, and for the most part, everything applies to every brand. And while they do make some absolutely incredible lenses, one of the problems is they do have a little bit of an issue with quality control. Spend any time online and you'll see there are a lot of people who actually buy lenses, test them out, and then return them and buy a new one trying to find a good copy. Now, unfortunately, I'm not going to go through all the different tests to see if you have a good copy lens, but this is just something to keep in mind. You might buy a lens, you might buy two lenses, they might all work out just fine. But this is something, if you read forums online or reviews on any site, this is something that people do. It's something people are worried about. It's something to consider. If you get a good lens, you're getting a great deal, but there are bad copies out there. Another thing to keep in mind is this is a manual focus lens. It only focuses manually. When you take a look at this lens, there is no motor. If you put down the shutter halfway, it's not going to move focus. In fact, nothing's going to happen at all. Now, if you're using this for landscape or astrophotography, it doesn't really matter that much. If you're trying to pull focus, the best way to do it on a DSLR is punch in to 5 times or 10 times zoom and just turn it until everything appears sharp. On a mirrorless camera, you can do the same thing, or you can use focus peaking, which is something DSLRs don't have. So for still photography, not really a big deal. For experienced videography, not really a big deal. But again, it's something you need to know. So unfortunately, the reason this lens is so cheap is because it doesn't have autofocus, but if you do want an autofocus version, there is one, but it costs about twice as much. Alright, and the third thing to keep in mind is that this lens does not have an electronic chip. it is not communicating at all with your camera. But what does this mean? So first and foremost, it means there's no focus confirmation if you're pulling focus manually on a DSLR. So if you take a lens, like for example any Canon lens that has autofocus, and you throw it in a manual focus mode and hold the shutter down halfway, it'll actually give you a beep while you're manual focusing, confirming what you're shooting is in focus. And you're not going to get that with a lens like this. Now, admittedly, when you're shooting at 14mm, it's pretty easy to get a lot of things in focus, so it's not a huge deal, but it is something you should keep in mind. Also, when you take an image, since the lens isn't communicating with the camera, you're not going to get settings like your aperture recorded in the image. So normally there's metadata attached with a picture that says shutter speed, ISO, aperture. When you're shooting with this lens, your camera actually doesn't think there's a lens attached, and it doesn't record that aperture setting because the lens is not communicating with the camera. You can change the aperture on this lens, but your camera has no idea what it is. And also, one more really weird quirk is when I attach this to something like my Canon 80D, sometimes the live view exposure is actually inaccurate to what a picture would be if you took it with this lens. Now, what does that mean? So look here, if I take an image and it looks like it's going to be properly exposed in the live view, when I actually take the image, it's horrendously underexposed. Why the heck is that? Well, it turns out since the lens isn't communicating with my camera, it still thinks it's on the aperture of the last lens I had attached. So if my last lens was on f7, this camera thinks this lens is on f7, and the live view isn't accurate, which is kind of weird. The easiest way to fix this is make sure the lens on the Rokinon is set to the same aperture as the lens that was on before. If you want to shoot on 2.8 on the Rokinon, make sure the last lens you had on was at f2.8, and it fixes this issue. Now, interesting enough, I don't think this affects all cameras. With something like a Canon T7, if I take this lens and throw it on here, it actually doesn't run into the same problem. So it might just be something with older cameras, but again, something to keep in mind. Okay, number 4, this one is very minor, but the focus markings on the lens aren't very accurate, at least on my copy. So when I take this lens and I move it to infinity, it doesn't seem like it's really infinity. Or I might be on 1 or 2 meters when something's like 50 meters away, which is kind of weird. Again, not really a big deal. You really don't want to rely on the markings on your lens anyways. Could be because I'm on a crop sensor, not entirely sure, but something else to know. And for whatever it's worth, there are a lot of people online who seem to have taken off the rubber and adjusted some screws to get this more accurate. I am not saying you should do this by any means. I haven't done it, I don't plan on doing it, but there it is. And the very last thing you should keep in mind before buying a Rokinon 14mm is you can't really use filters on this lens. Now, there is a little bit of an asterisk there because there is some random, I think it's another third party of a third party filter adapter that you can throw on the front of this lens. I mean, as you can see, no regular filter is gonna fit on the front of this. There's just no way. But if you really want to put filters on, there's some 6th party adapter that you can buy that in theory can do that. If you're a landscape photographer, that is something you might consider, but it's kind of a pain with this lens. Anyways, these are just some things you might want to know before buying the Rokinon 14mm. None of them should be a deal breaker, but just not to get your hopes up, this isn't some dream miracle lens. There are definitely shortcomings, there are definitely things they cheaped out on, didn't include. Personally, it's very much a specialty lens for me. It doesn't come with me everywhere, but I never shoot the stars without it. It's just really nice to have. If you wanted the Canon, Nikon, Sony, Panasonic, Fuji, whatever version of this lens, it's gonna be so much more. But if you're willing to, look past the setbacks of the Rokinon 14mm, it still could be a really good buy. Anyways, hopefully that helped you out. As always, if you liked the video, be sure to like it. If you have any questions, have any comments, hit up that comment section down below. And if you want to see more videos like this, consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks again for watching. My name's Josh Winiarski. Check me out on Instagram. And question of the day: what's your favorite budget lens for astrophotography, or just any lens for astrophotography? Let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll see you all in the next one.